All right, everybody. This is the second half of the program. Now, this is being recorded on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. Happy Cinco de Mayo for those of you that live in America that celebrate Cinco de Mayo. But anyways, one game has been played in the second round. The Indiana Pacers beat the Cleveland Cavs. This is before the tip-off with the Knicks and, of course, the Celtics. And wanted to bring in a good friend of mine, an excellent returning guest, Jeffrey Deskovic. Let me give you a round of applause there, buddy. Hold on. Let's see if I can find our applause button. Hey, Jeffrey, can you hear me, buddy?
I can hear you, Robert. Yes, I can. It's wonderful to be back on the most influential podcast, the Sports Scope.
On the planet. And I've also been wanting to bring you back on for another reason. Congratulations on your engagement. I saw that on the internet, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, it's a new mode of life. My fiance Samantha makes me very happy, and she's flexible, lots of energy. We got lots. She loves to do things, which I like going new places, trying new food, trying new activities. She's up for all of that. When she's back in school to get a bachelor's degree in criminal justice with the idea of springboarding to go to law school, become an attorney, and work on freeing innocent people, which is my main shtick when I'm not opinionating on sports, which I do on the side. So it's match made in heaven, my friend.
Wow, that's perfect, man. So you got a partner in getting people out of wrongfully accused for crimes instead of fighting crime. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly. Listen, we only take cases of people that we believe are innocent, and there's a way to prove that. And we do, of course, do a little bit of policy work, aimed at preventing that from happening in the first place. Jeffrey Deskovic Foundation for Justice, www.deskovic.org. And of course, my backstory, of course, for those not familiar, I got into this line of work because I spent 16 years wrongfully incarcerated prior to DNA exonerating me. Was in from age 17 to 32, but I've been home for 18 years, and doing the work of helping people in the same position I was in. And I love coming on the Sports Scope because I get to talk, opinionate on things other than wrongful conviction and even general criminal justice.
I actually got your website at the bottom of the screen. Almost forgot because we're at a little bit out of normal sequence, but it's all good, buddy. I've been wanting to talk to you anyways. What's your thoughts about this Minnesota upsetting the Lakers? I'm sure you probably had the Lakers winning that series. A lot of us did. A 6 beating a 3, did it with such fashion there in 5 games. What's your thoughts about that series? I thought it was a good one.
Yeah, I did have the Lakers winning that series. I mean, I thought it was a power move. I mean, they robbed Dallas as far as I'm concerned. Getting getting Luka in exchange for the oft injured Antonio Davis, and perhaps not coincidentally, he went down right away, almost immediately with an injury. So I thought that they would. I did think that they would at least go as far as the Western Conference Finals. I was shocked when Minnesota took them down. Although, of course, while I did think that, I mean, I remember that, Minnesota, Minnesota did get, they did have a really successful
run last year,
playoff run. They were, and so they weren't the typical 6 seed is what I'm getting in, almost like the Warriors Rockets, where they're the dramatically lower seed, but the experience factor, and like the I feel like the Lakers coach there, just the name is leaving me off the top of my head.
JJ Redick.
Right, JJ Redick. I mean, how can you play without a center? I mean with no center at all whatsoever. We're not talking about
and the whole
ball, Don Nelson, but I mean, but just turning Rudy Gobert into, this world beater like that he's not. It was. I feel like the coach lost them that series Although at the same time, they didn't have that long to play together. I feel like the jury's still out on whether Luca and LeBron, can coexist in the long term, or are their games too similar? Although I'm not really so sure that they did that with the idea of it working out long term. I mean, I think any year you get out of LeBron's extra right now at this point anyway. So maybe they looked at him as like replacing LeBron, and he's one of the very few players right now that you could say can replace LeBron.
Would you try to work out something if you're the man in charge there, or woman in Jenny Buss? Would you try to work out something with LeBron to potentially trade? Obviously, you'd have to get his approval because he can retire at any point.
I would.
Around a year
I would trade him if I could get some kind of pieces back. The issue is, if you're selling, is anybody buying?
Right.
Because you have to get something worthwhile to trade him. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. But then whoever you're trading him to has to be, has to feel like this is that's the year that they have. That is their 1, maybe 2 year window. Maybe it could be interesting. There's a lot of speculation and rumor. In light of the Rockets elimination in the 7th game to the Golden State Warriors, a lot of people are speculating that maybe the Rockets might they might make a trade for Giannis. Some talk about KD. If they gave up maybe one of their lesser young players and maybe like a draft pick, maybe that would make sense, for them to get. I mean, I feel like they're maybe like a half player away. LeBron to them could make sense, but they can't give up too much because you're only going to get a year, maybe 2, of him. Are you going to get year 4 and 5? I don't see him playing in 5 years from now. I think you could get I think he could be good as a third option in year number 3, but is he going to give you anything at all in year 4, or is he just going to be like a Jason Kidd? When Jason Kidd got traded to the Knicks, and before the playoffs even arrived, he was just like buried on the bench, simply not even playable.
Yeah, that's interesting, and that's a good little trivia. I forgot he played with the Knicks, man. Wow. That's like Pat Ewing going to Orlando.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Yes, that is true.
The Suns, Jeffrey.
Yeah, right. But it's gonna be an intrigue. I like the idea that the lower seeds have a chance at beating the top seeds, and some certainly making it competitive. And and this year, 2 of the lower seeds prevailing.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on that other
getting a bunch of 4-game sweeps?
Yeah.
That's not interesting to watch. It's like, hurry up and get this out the way for the real basketball to be played. So that brings us really to the second round.
Yeah.
All right. So I definitely like the Warriors over I like the Warriors over the Timberwolves.
Yeah.
Wow. What's that?
That's wild, man. Now, let's go back to last night.
Yes.
Warriors they went on the road at the Rockets. I picked the Warriors to win that series prior to, but they lost 2 straight. It's a very low chance a road team wins these game 7s against a younger, more athletic team. What's your thoughts on that game? That was really interesting game. Great game plan, by the way, last night.
That was a great game. That was a great game plan. I felt like Curry didn't try to do too much. They were throwing these double and triple teams at him. So it was his job to get other people, involved, make the pass that leads to the second pass that leads to the basket, not necessarily a direct assist, although he got some of those. He got 10 rebounds, small point guard that he is, got steals, played defense, hustled. Buddy Hield just like picked the right time to just like play out of his mind
game of his life, didn't
The
he?
game of his life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Draymond, really solid contributions. Jimmy Butler. Look, when they got those three, Butler, Curry, and Green playing well, and then they get a role player that give a little timely scoring. They're hard to beat. Definitely have an experienced they have an experience advantage over most of the other teams. I mean, I would only argue that they don't have more experience than the Celtics. But
Right.
everyone else that's still playing, they certainly have, the experience. I mean, the experience doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win, but it definitely is an intangible that counts for something.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, so you're saying this team, with all that less rest, they're going to go from San Francisco to Houston, and tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, Jeffrey, which is Tuesday, they're going to fly off to Minnesota, and they're going to win that series. That's a bold statement. Why do you say that?
Yeah, it is a bold statement. I'm not saying that. Look, I'm picking them for the series, not necessarily each game, but I wouldn't be surprised if they won the first game. But the reason why I say that is this: I mean, if they're both playing at their best,
Okay.
would you rather have Steph Curry, or would you rather have the Ant-Man? I would rather have Curry.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm looking at it like that. I think that Jimmy Butler is the third best player. I think he's the third best player. In this. I mean, would you rather have Butler or Julius Randle?
Yeah.
I get it, it's not a big gap, but I would rather have Jimmy. I'd rather have Jimmy Butler than Julius. But the main reason for the prediction, I think, though, is I think that it's Golden State's. I think it's Golden State's last ride, and that's part of it. But also, I think that the Houston team is more. I think the Houston team was more talented than what the Timberwolves are.
Oh wow. Okay.
What do you think? You think that Minnesota has more? I mean, the Rockets had like the 6 players averaging double figures.
Yeah. But they
I think that they were the better. I think that they had better talent than Minnesota, and if Golden State was able to beat them.
That's a good point. My issue with them is, and I know they got through last night. I know that Ime went with the two bigs. Was it Seagun? Is that his name? The young 22-year-old big man, Seagun, I think. And Steven Adams. It worked, but it did not work last night. That being said, I do think about that Clippers game that put Golden State in the 7th seed that they lost using Zubac. Look how hot the role players are for Minnesota. Randall playing the best basketball of his career. Did you see him in the Lakers series? He looked like he had a chip.
He was.
They got rid of him.
I feel like Julius Randle was the X factor in the Lakers series. I mean, I feel like he definitely played better than LeBron and Anthony and the Ant-Man. Anthony Edwards. He definitely played better. He definitely played better than Luka, even though Luka had that unusual back injury type thing.
Yeah.
But I don't. But see, I think that they're not. I mean, the Rockets had more. Sengun and Adams and Amon Thompson. I mean, I feel like the Rockets were bigger. They're more imposing than the big men from Minnesota.
Wow. Okay. You might be right. I just think Minnesota's more skillful. Nas Reed shooting the ball well. Jaden Daniels, he had 25 the other night too. I don't know where. Now this may fall apart. I really like the coaching job that Kerr's doing, and you're right about that. I mean, there's so much team chemistry with that Golden State team. I just feel like the youth of Minnesota with the experience of last year, remember. Rockets, it looks like the lid just closes on the basket for 5 and 10 minutes at a time, Jeffrey.
I know. That's true. Yes, that is true. That is very true.
They don't have a consistent Ant-Man to go out and get 44 anytime you need it. I think they win in 6. I think Minnesota wins in 6. But I wouldn't be surprised. Plus fatigue. I mean, everybody's, 33, 34, 35 maybe for the core there for Golden State.
Yeah, they're older. They're old. They are older than Minnesota's team. That's definitely that's a definite.
Working against them, it may catch up with them with that the big 7-game series. Remember, they were the 7 seed, so I did the play-in, and that may catch up with them. If they win this, I don't wear a hat, but I'll put one on and take it off for them. If they could beat this Minnesota team, Jeffrey, man, that would be impressive.
Yeah, no, it definitely definitely would be. It definitely would be for sure. But I have them getting it done.
Okay.
Speaking of getting it done, that other Western Conference semifinal is very intriguing.
Yeah.
The Denver Nuggets and
Thunder.
OKC. Again, I'll go on a limb here. I think that the team without the home court advantage is going to win that one. I mean, I like Denver in that. I'm looking at it like this. Alex, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander always, they're always losing to a team that's got a lesser record than them. I mean, they did that. They lost to Dallas last year. Yeah. The Denver is just 2 years removed from their championship run. If you had to win a game tomorrow, would you rather have Jokic or would you rather have SGA? I would rather have Jokic because beyond the points he's going to give you a lot of assists. So, a lot of triple doubles there. So, I would rather have that. I mean, Alexander is really going to give you scoring, and he's not going to. He's not going to give you the same level of assists or rebounding than Jokic is. So I mean, they kind of they are kind of a big team there with him, and then Anderson, which if you remember last year, Lively and Gafford, gave OKC a fit. So they did address that need. That was the whole point of throwing the $74 million at Hartenstein.
Yeah, former Nick.
But what do you think Hartenstein is going to be able to do against the Joker?
That's true. That's
he
true.
Can stand up next to him being tall, and he's not going to be able to do too much. He's not going to be able to do too much else. Well, how do you see that series? Who do you have in that series, and how do you see it?
Well, I think their depth and the fact that they played that series. Look how good they played that. I think Dallas was the 6-game series last year.
Yeah, it was.
Really close games, Jeffrey. If you remember, Dallas come away at the end, and Lively was a young guy. It's unfortunate about his injury last year. But Holmgren, I mean, they seem vibrant, healthy, deep. They do lack that other consistent start. That's my only concern of that team. But I could see a guy like a Dort or somebody stepping up and making big shots for Oklahoma City with their defense the way it is. I could see them making this thing happen, and I could see a fatigue factor setting in with the Denver, kind of like it did last year when they had their 7-game series with
Minnesota. Yeah, that was with Minnesota.
Yeah. So in the series before that, or for example, Minnesota beating them in the 7-game series, and then Dallas kind of, beating Minnesota that way. I could see this like the Clippers took a lot out of them, man. You could tell last minute shots there. So, but then again, we'll have to see how that plays out. That feels like it could go 7 and either team can win. I'll go with the younger team, but you may have me talked in just because you're saying of guys like Jamal, what's his name there?
Murray.
Yeah, Jamal Murray. Yeah. As long as Westbrook don't screw things up,
Right, but I
Westbrook
feel like, honestly, I feel like if Denver, the way the Clippers series went, if Denver didn't have Westbrook, I don't think they would have won that series, considering how it turned out.
What does Westbrook run out of gas because of his age? Has he's done in the past in the playoffs? Because how's the maybe because his minutes are down. Maybe that doesn't happen. Are you a little concerned about that because of the way he's played in the past in the playoffs?
I'm not, because, honestly, you only really need Westbrook to give you 3 good games. I don't feel like you need to have him night in and night out. If you just get 3 good games from him, and it's the right 3 games where there's 1 or 2 other people clicking at the same time, then that could be that could be enough.
That very well may be it. I think you're probably going to be right about that one. Now the Knicks. Actually, let's knock out that Indiana. So Indiana beats the Cleveland, and game 1, the first game in the second round. No Darius Garland. You're saying Cleveland's going to come back and still win this series. Why do you?
That's right.
Do you say that?
I am saying that. Yes, I am saying that. Look, I like Indiana. They had the nice run last year. I do. I think Rick Carlisle is underestimated as a coach. I like his philosophy. Look, everybody plays, everybody touches the ball, everybody shoots, everybody scores. That was on full display last night. That probably is the only way to play to be able to beat Cleveland.
Yeah.
But look, it was a nice road win, but I don't think that they're going to. I don't see them winning that series.
Okay.
But I mean, certainly they have a shot. Someone else that's always scoring very well and playing well and always coming up short, kind of like SGA. Donovan Mitchell is always putting up huge numbers, no matter what team he's on. He give you 30, 35, and then his team will still manage to lose. They'll still manage to lose anyway.
That is true. And I didn't think they'd have the success they would under him. But, Barkley mentioned it at halftime. He says, and I want to say Kenny Smith said the same thing, that they think eventually the size of Cleveland will catch up with him. Mobley, who's the other guy there? The big guy that used to play with the Nets. I can't remember his name.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I
can see him. But those two it'll eventually catch up with Indiana, and they'll go cold from 3 and run out of gas, and they'll come back. So that could be it. But man, winning game 1 like that, I don't know, man. I kind of had that feeling when Minnesota went up there and beat Lakers like that. That's the kind of the feeling I got, that maybe Garland is really hurting them. We don't know when he's going to. Has he got like a sprained toe or something? I don't know. He could re-aggravate that.
Yeah. They're not. They're very good with or without him, but they're certainly much better with him. Yeah. I do like his. I do like his game. So his injury is definitely. It's kind of hard to compute, because the idea is, how well would Cleveland have done? Would Cleveland have been a 1 seed if they were without Garland? I think the answer is no. I think they would not have been a 1 seed. They might have been a 3 or a 4. I don't see them as being a 1 or a 2. So the question then becomes, if they weren't, then, would they really have, where would they have been at relative to Indiana?
Right. Jared Allen, who I was thinking about earlier.
Yes.
Rim protector.
Yes.
Rim protector. So you still like it? What do you see that series going, like 6 or 7 games?
Yeah, I do. I do see it as 6 or 7 games. Indiana did impress me. I mean, every time Cleveland made a run, they didn't rattle. Right. They didn't rattle, and they responded with their own run, and tightening up defense, getting the loose balls, making unbelievable 3-point shots. At was it Neymar? What was his name again? I don't have to pronounce it. Yeah.
I know he's got an odd name.
Siakam, Turner can the 3 late. I mean, it was unbelievable that they didn't rattle. I mean, if that had been the Rockets, they might have. I think the Rockets would have rattled. I do.
Halliburton, they're a deep team. They got a right amount of older veteran players like your Siakams, TJ O'Connell. You just mentioned with Halliburton.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the good mixture there. And like you said, Rick Carlisle's a good coach, man.
Yes. So I think the best matchups in the second round definitely are Denver and OKC.
Great matchup.
Follow closely with the Knicks Celtics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your
and I would say that so speaking of which,
yes.
The Knicks playing some incredible ball. Okay. Brunson, just continuing to take over in late games. Knicks trusting him, and they got a really nice squad. Detroit has an incredible future.
Yes, they do.
I thought that was much closer than 4-2. I mean, they had the 12-point lead in the fourth quarter in the fourth game. The first game. They lost a couple of nail biters. That was just experience, but there lots of reason to be hopeful in Detroit. But I don't think that that's an indication that that the Knicks aren't potent. I mean, I think that I kind of like the Knicks to pull the upset there off of the over the Celtics.
Wow, they're 0-4 in the regular season. To me, it feels like it's too much. Now, I know they've gotten away from it the last two games, but it still feels like it's too much. Brunson be hero ball, not enough fluidity, not enough really the way Golden State plays, where people are touching the ball. There's a lot of talent on that team. Man, you guys traded for a lot of players there, and it's a lot of guys standing around. I think that's coming down on Thibodeau. Yeah, I think Boston's primed and ready to go. I think they'll probably win it in 5, maybe 6. My question to you is, do they make a coaching change if that's the way it looks? If it's a bad series for the Knicks, do they make a coaching change with Tom Thibodeau?
Yeah, if the Knicks lose in 5 games, I think that Thibs is out of there.
Okay.
Certainly, if they get swept. He's definitely he is out of there. I mean, I feel like the general feeling in New York, amongst fans as well, is he's on very thin lines. Like nobody's calling yet for him to be fired, but they're only like a half second away from doing that.
Do you get a sense? And I was talking about this with the Bad New Yorker, as a big Knicks fan as well. This kind of feels like the Warriors when they had Mark Jackson, where Thibodeau changes the culture. He gets guys to play defense, but he can only take them so far. Now they need their Steve Kerr to get them over the top. This kind of feels like that situation, don't it, Jeffrey?
It really does. And by the way, I think if the Warriors did not make the coaching change, even though I like Mark Jackson, but honestly, Mark is a good coach, but I like Mark more. Mark's a better analyst than a head coach.
Me too. Yes.
But I think that the Warriors would not have won championships if they didn't replace Mark with Steve Kerr. I think they would not have won the championship. So I do like your analogy between Thibs and him. I'm not quite sure who the right coach for the Knicks would be.
Right.
It certainly wouldn't be Doc Rivers. I mean, I think Doc is gone.
Anybody but Doc.
Yeah, right. I think Doc is. You know who I'd love to coach the Knicks, but it's not going to happen. Which is a good segue to our next topic. Well, I'll come back to that in just half a second. Sure. Let me give this one last thought on Knicks Celtics. So I predict that the winner of Knicks Celtics will represent the East in the NBA Finals. So I think the Eastern Conference
sticking with the preseason. Yeah.
It's gonna come from that series rather than from the Cleveland Indiana series.
That makes sense. Yeah. I feel like it'd
But
probably be both.
so you know who would be incredible to coach the Knicks if Tibbs is shown the door. It won't happen though, because you know it's. Imagine if Greg Popovich came to the Knicks.
Well, he's off that stroke, and you know they need. I would like for him to get an older Larry Brown, but that probably won't happen either. These guys
Larry Brown would be Larry Brown would be that Larry Brown would be perfect for the Knicks. I mean, I still remember when he had that great coaching stint, you know, with the Pacers.
Detroit, yeah.
Yep.
One with
Well,
Detroit.
yeah. With Detroit, but then after that, the Pacers. But I mean, look, isn't he too old? Is he too old to come back to coach?
Oh yeah, I think he's done with that stroke. What's your thoughts about him? He's going to go take the basketball operations job. He's not going to coach anymore. I think he's had one stroke and another minor stroke. I think it's probably time for him. Unfortunately, I respect him as a coach. Don't really care for the guy personally with the way he talks to reporters and he lectures people on political rants with that Spurs background.
He's definitely definitely rough around the edges, and nobody would ever mistake him or call him Mr. Manners. You know, kind of like Miss Manners for sure. You know, interesting Popovich story, real quick.
Sure. No,
so I met him. He came to. I want to say it was 2 years ago. He came to the Innocence Project's annual gala dinner.
Okay.
1 year. So I was in the room with him, and you know, I saw him on stage, and I chit chatted with him a little bit. And you know, I remember he said he had he said one thing that I liked there.
What?
He was there with another guy from the NBA. I'm sort of stop thinking about it. It'll come to me. But you know, he said. He said, "F the playoffs, man. This is where it's happening at right here." So yeah. I like that part of it, but yeah, I agree with you. I don't like the way that I don't like the way he's rough with you know, he is definitely rough with the media. Honestly, I don't see. I mean, I don't see how, you know, this basketball operations title thing is going to work. I mean, I think he should just like retire from basketball altogether and just focus on his medical needs, you know, focus on the things that are important, man. You know, your life, your quality of life, you know, your family, you know, your friends, the things that mean the most to you. I mean, your life. I mean, I guess to get to that level of success, and really, he's a whole, you know, I feel like he's one of the more underappreciated, you know, coaches. I mean, which is hard to say that of somebody
I know what it's
brings, but I feel like it's true though. I don't think that.
Yeah.
I don't feel like he was fully appreciated during his tenure as a coach, but I think he definitely was one of the. I feel like he was on the same level as like a Phil Jackson or a Pat Riley. I feel he would be right up there with them. How do you think about him?
Well, I would probably put him below Phil. I'd put him below Pat, Red Auerbach with the Celtics. He probably could. I would probably put Kerr above him. He's so combative. I don't know how he got what he got. Maybe because a lot of his core players were foreign-based and they're not American-based players with your Tony Parkers, your Tim Duncan, Ginobili's. I remember Robert Horry saying, I couldn't have him holler at me like that. But he never did at Horry. And Horry hit some big shot Bob. Remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah, I do remember that big shot Bob. I do. Listen, his I do. Great Robert Horry memories, but Robert Horry, by the way, was the difference in that Spurs Pistons NBA Finals that went Game 7. I mean that Game 5. You know, his heroics in Game 5. You know, he won that game for the Spurs, and I think, as it turned out, really the series.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember him with that, and
he's
always making,
5 or 6, but that's all time. So yeah, he's a good coach, man. I wouldn't want to play for him. I'd rather play for a Chuck Daly or.
Yeah, oh, you remember Chuck Daly? Yes. Oh man, I do. I do remember Chuck Daly. I remember all those Piston teams. You know, they had the great run from '88 to '91.
Yes.
You know, they won the Eastern Conference champ in '88, and then they won the back-to-back, of course, in '89 and '90, and then they made the Eastern Conference Finals in '91. You know, before getting swept by Chicago. But yeah, Chuck was tough. Chuck was a great manager of egos. He was great at the bench, and if you played for Chuck, you played defense, or you didn't play.
Right. And I like those guys over him just because of his attitude. Rick Bucher, let me tell you this. I heard this Friday on Fox Sports. I think it was the Colin Cowherd show. Rick Bucher was talking about how nice of a guy that Popovich was off camera. He says, "Is there anything I could ask you beforehand so you're not making me look like an idiot once the camera goes on, Greg Popovich? Hey, man, this is Craig." He says, "Hey, man, I'm sorry. We're good. Once the camera's on, we're going to be fine." And then Bucher says, sure enough, as soon as the camera comes on, he goes back to being that bleep that rhymes with castard that he was before I asked him. And he said he does it every time. And I thought, why embarrass Rick Bucher like that? Why do that? I mean, that just kills me. He kind of reminds me of Bob Knight a little bit. In some sense, he's a little worse.
I got that. Hey, you know it would be an interesting talk show if they had if they gave him just like a short 5-episode run. What if you paired Popovich? You got him on the podcast video, him and Skip Bayless. Wouldn't that be a combustible? Wouldn't that be a combustible combination? Shannon Sharp was going to fight Skip Bayless that time. We took his glasses off.
Put your glasses on.
Skip, don't disrespect me, Skip.
Yeah.
Skip. Did Skip realize that the guy was this much off his rear end and that Skip would have had zero chance? If that turned physical, all right, Shannon would have mopped the floor with Skip. There ain't no question about that.
Shannon mopped the floor with a lot of guys. Yeah, I was talking about him last week. He's got to get it together. He's got a great podcast, interviews.
Yeah, I love Club Station, man. He really found himself after sports. He's got the great He's got the great podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else you need to plug, Jeffrey?
Just want to share with people, on Thursday night at 8 p.m. The foundation's having our third annual gala dinner. So if you're in Westchester County, if you're in the city, you can.
Okay.
You can pay at the door. It's at Westchester Manor. Check out the website, and it's going to be a fun time. There'll be, appetizers, food, keynote speakers. There'll be a band, and at the same time, raising money for a nonprofit organization. So I definitely want to plug our third annual gala dinner. Go to the website www.deskovic.org.
All right, Jeffrey Deskovic. Again, congratulations on your engagement, and I'll save your takes, and I'll try to get as many clips of as I can, and I'll tag you on Facebook, buddy.
That would be great. All right, thanks so much. But hey, I'll see you the third round.
Yes, hopefully. Yeah, and remind me, you've got my messenger, Jeffrey Deskovic. Let me give you another round. Thanks, buddy. Have a good night, man.
Thank you. You too.
See, all right. All righty, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow, which will be Thursday, the 8th, with the Mad New Yorker. You have a good night, everybody, and rest in peace there, my man John McGraw, better known as Mac from National Streaming Sports.